Hello, I'm Suzanne Collier, the founder of bookcareers.com, the independent careers service for the book publishing industry. And today I want to talk to you about how to write a CV for a book publishing job. The information I'm giving is copyright material and it's extracted from How to Job Search in Book Publishing, which will be published next year. You can't pre-order it yet. I'm still writing it. That's what all those lovely coloured post-it notes are. And you will know when it's getting near to completion because those post-it notes will hopefully disappear altogether. Now, if you ask 37 different people how to write your CV, you will get 37 different answers. And I'm sure if you've been job hunting for a while, you are very, very confused about, do I do this? Do I have a personal profile? Do I do colour? Do I do black and white? Do I use a template? And what I want to do today is to sort out the wheat from the chaff, really, and to help you build a CV that will please all of the people most of the time. All of the people most of the time, as opposed to some of the people all of the time. So this is what I do with my clients, is I help them build a CV that works with all of the people most of the time. Now, first of all, I would suggest that you start with a blank piece of paper, that you do not use a template. Now, templates very often can go against you if you use some of the most popular templates for CVs online. First of all, you might find you're in a bunch of several hundred applications, all who have the same CV template. And this means that often if the template is not very well designed, in that there's one in particular I see an awful lot where you don't have enough space to write all the information that you need to write on the template, then the recruiter can instantly say, well, yeah, they may be a good candidate, but I'm not learning enough about them here. And sometimes it can lead to you being in the first pool of rejections. So I do advise not to use a template. The other thing I would suggest is not to use any colour or any graphic design on any photographs at all. Just black text on a white background. And please do not use columns in any form on your CV. Now, I have tested this with clients and I have seen that the people who are unemployed the longest very often have their CV in columns when they're looking for book publishing jobs. Now, the first bit of information that should go on your blank piece of paper should be your name and your contact details. There's no need to put your full address. Really, it should be name, phone number, email address. There's no need to put your national insurance number, and I'd be very wary of what documents anyway, generally, that you put your national insurance number on, because that can lead to identity theft. And I'm not saying that's going to happen with your CV, but I'm just saying I see people sharing their national insurance number a bit too liberally. You should keep that to yourself and only give it to an employer when they ask you for it. The next bit on your CV is your personal profile. If you're going to use a personal profile, very often, if you're a student or someone that's just come out of education, your personal profile you think is very much like a personal statement that you wrote to either get a scholarship or a university place or for some training. This is very different. A personal profile is between 3 and 5 lines that talk about you in the first person, that will just be a very brief summary of who you are and your key skills relating to the role. Now, I see lots and lots of CVs, as I'm sure any recruiter does, and what I see quite a lot is what I call CV speak, where it's, say for example, an enthusiastic English graduate who's hardworking with good communication skills. That is not a great personal profile, because that could probably apply to so many different people who are going for the same job as you. So what you're better to do is to reframe some of your experience within your personal profile, just very briefly. And I don't want to give too much actual concrete words and phrases in this video, because book publishing is a very small industry. And if everybody who's looking for a job in book publishing is watching this video, then they are likely to copy those exact words and phrases. And therefore, your CV will not be unique, and your job application will not be unique. And your job application and CV needs to be unique for the jobs you're applying for. Really important. Just going back on contact details, I see a lot of people who mistype their phone number or their email address, and they don't go back and proofread their contact details when they proof their CV. So always ensure your contact details are proofread so that there are no errors, and somebody who wants to invite you for an interview can get hold of you swiftly. But an example of a personal profile might be to say, instead of an English graduate looking for an editorial assistant role, might be to say a prospective editorial assistant with a passion for science fiction and fantasy. Don't go on too long in your personal profile. And I would also recommend, if you find writing a personal profile, personal statement too hard, then it might be best not to write one at all and just go straight into the next part of your CV, which should be your work experience, if you've got work experience, rather than your education. Now, the times to put your education first is when you've just come out of education, you've got no office experience, or you've completed a degree or course that is relevant to the job you're applying for. So for example, if you have a master's in publishing, then you might put that first as your education. But the most important thing is the work experience, your work history in this case. And the idea is to put it in reverse chronological order, with the latest information, the latest role first. And it doesn't matter what you've been doing. If you've been a barista, if you're working in a supermarket, if you're working in a call centre, if you've just been helping out in a family business, but to list the name of the organisation, the dates you were there, and if you're still there, and some of the key tasks. Now, when you're describing these key tasks, it's really good if you can match them to the job you're applying for. So if the job you're applying for is asking for you, for instance, do you have good communication skills? Then what you might do for your current role is that you'd been communicating or liaising or speaking to customers all day, every day, helping them resolve issues. Because that could match having the good communication skills. It's not, you don't have to demonstrate you've got publishing experience, and please don't be too literal about I did this and therefore it shows that I have these skills. Just write a summary of tasks and make sure these are coherent sentences, and watch repeating vocabulary, because these are in book publishing, if you look at a normal job application, your vocabulary probably could be about down there. For book publishing, it needs to be quite high. You need to have a good level of vocabulary. That doesn't mean sit there with a thesaurus. What it does mean is that your words and sentences should flow, they should be coherent, and they should be clear. No word salads, please. And then you could move on to your education. And if you've been at a university and you've recently graduated, what I would suggest is with your education, you have the name of your dissertation or your major project on your CV. Then we could move on to your other interests, skills, any other information you want to add. And you could head this as other information. What I would suggest is that somewhere on your CV is a list of all the computer software that you can use. And don't just write Microsoft Office 365. Name the components of Office that you use. So you might put Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, for instance, and to follow the same with any other software that you use, like Adobe Creative Suite, InDesign, Photoshop. And that will help the recruiter understand the level of experience that you might already have in using lots of different software. You can also add what languages you use and how proficient you are in those languages. And if you want to, and if they're relevant. Now, what I do suggest is that if you have very little experience, sometimes it is really good to have your interests on your CV because they can give you a discussion point at interview, so that they can see, oh yes, I can see this person's interested in art history and that's relevant to this role. I keep using art as a example mainly because my laptop is propped up on loads of art books, so it's the first thing I see. But interests are fine on CVs, but entry level or beginning, and if they're relevant to the job, but don't get hung up about this. Now, the other thing I would advise you to do, it seems simple, is to check, double check and triple check for errors. I even found an error on my CV recently. And do not go over 2 pages in length. Your CV should be no more than 2 pages maximum. If it's 1 page, then that's fine, but in the UK, no more than 2 pages. Now, a couple of little notes I want to add on to there is that I see lots of universities giving students lists of words to use on CVs. This is all very well and good, but don't go overstating and overusing these words, because as I said near the beginning, is that it makes all CVs look the same. Now, ideally you should be tailoring your CV to each and every job you apply for, and that is how some of my clients get called in for interview quite frequently, and hopefully eventually get the job. But it's about you having read and understood the job advertisement and then tailoring your CV to that job advertisement. So if you've got a list of skills and tasks for each job, then you might reorder those depending on the relevance of the job you're applying for. Now, this is a very brief walkthrough, something that I might spend hours with you on. So I hope it's given you some good points forward. If you want a CV consultation, we charge for those. Those are £99. You can book them online at bookcareers.com. Look for the option that says CVs, covering letters, and applications. We've also got lots of free advice on our podcasts, which you can find on iTunes or on the website. Just search for Book Careers on iTunes, Spotify, most podcast platforms, or on the Book Careers website, click the top link that says podcasts, and use the search box to find, I think there's 5-6 episodes on CVs. And it just leaves for me to say, may you all be doing a job you love and being paid the salary that you so richly deserve.